Hey, how's it going? All right, today we're gonna make a glaze. So what I want to do first is show you what's in this glaze. You can see it has soda ash, spodumene, nepheline cyanide, and EPK. And I'm gonna add 4% red iron oxide. This is the base, and then this is the additive to make color. So I've already made a version of this glaze without the color. So this is going to be a base. It's going to be a two-part application glaze. So one thing that all glazes have in common, they have three parts. One is a glass former, one is a flux, and one is a stabilizer. So this particular glaze, the soda ash acts as a flux, the nepheline cyanide is a glass former and a flux, and spodumene also is a glass former and a flux, and the EPK is a stabilizer. The glass former is what it sounds like. It's the part that makes it melt and shiny, and the flux is what makes the temperature adjust so the glaze doesn't run off the pot or melts at the right temperature. And a stabilizer keeps the pot, it keeps the glaze from running off the pot. And it's all based on the temperature of what you're firing to. So this recipe, so you can see this is a 100-gram batch. So I always work with grams. So in order to get this to a 1,000-gram batch, which is more workable, what I want to do is move the decimal point to the right. That would be 90.9 for soda ash. So I'm going to round that up and go to 91. Spodumene, I'm going to go to 73. And nepheline cyanide, I'm going to go to 491. And EPK is going to be 346. So I've already written these down on this sheet of paper so I can keep track of it and what I put in. When you make a glaze, you want to wear one of these, right? But because I'm videoing this and you need to hear me, I'm going to leave it off. So I've got my gram scale here. I'm going to turn it on. Make sure it lands on grams. If not, you change the unit. I've got a bowl that I'm going to put my ingredients in, and it goes up to 230. So I'm going to hit tare on the scale, and it goes to 0. All right, so we're going to start with soda ash. So I've got my ingredient right here, soda ash. $91 grams, not a lot. It's got some big chunks in it, so I'm going to try to get those out later. So I'm at 49 right now, 60, 69, 71, 74, 85. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart and just kind of crush it until I get to 91, 90, 91. Since it has those rocks in there, it's just the humidity, it makes it clump up. Some minerals do that, some don't. I'm just going to take these and use the bowl, kind of crush it up so it mixes better. Okay, so now I've got a container. I'm going to put that mineral in, put my bowl back on, mark off soda ash, and move on to spodumene. So I've got spodumene right here. Now I need 73 grams. Oh, 75. So if you overdo it, just take a pinch out of there and right on 73. Spodumene. Make sure you get it all out of there. If it doesn't go back to 0, you need to reset it. All right, so now we're going to move to nepheline cyanide, which is 491. I'm at 430. I slow down considerably when I get down to the final gram. There we go. It's really important that you get these numbers exact or your glaze could malfunction. So this glaze is a glaze that I have not tried yet, so it's an experiment. That's why I'm making a 1,000 gram batch instead of a 5,000 or 6,000 gram batch, which fills the big 5-gallon buckets. All right, so now I've marked off spodumene, NFSI, and now it's down to EPK. So remember, EPK is my main stabilizer, and so this glaze is heavy on NFSI, which is also a flux, right? And then it almost has as much stabilizer in EPK, but NFSI is also a glass former, so it balances out. Some minerals have more than one purpose in a glaze. So I need to get 346. There we go. So right now, this is exactly what I started with this. That is the base, right? And this has already been mixed and added, and water's been added to it, and it's been strained. I'll show you that in a second. But for this glaze, I want to add something to it, a colorant, red iron oxide. I only need 4 grams, so it's very little. So 4 grams is 4% of 1,000, right? Is that right? Do I need 40? Actually, I need 40. That makes more sense. All right, so I don't need this anymore. I don't need my scale anymore, so I can turn that off. So now I have all the dry ingredients in here that I want to mix them up. Just stir carefully until it's one consistent color and texture. So again, simple math sometimes can trick you up. But there. So now I have one consistent color. So I'm going to start adding water, and I keep stirring. I don't want to overdo it. I need to feel the amount of water that's going in there. So right now it's obviously too dry and clumpy, right? So I need to keep adding. You don't want it to be too watery. Now some glazes need to be thicker, some glazes need to be thinner. The base needs to be thicker to do what it's supposed to do because it's more of a textural kind of glaze. This one needs to be a little thinner because it's going to be sprayed on the outside of the first glaze. So I can make this one thinner than the other one. So I can see, you see it still has clumps, right? I'm just trying to kind of mash those up a little bit as I stir it. Add just a little more water. I'm not going to be able to get all the clumps out. But the next thing I'm going to do is going to get rid of all that and really homogenize all this together. So I have another bucket. I need to get a screen. So now I have this, which has a little screen in it. Place that over this bucket. Pour this in. Get all the glaze out. So I use a rubber kind of flexible rib, kind of like the metal ones, but it's made out of rubber to do this. It's just a good, it's like a part of a spatula. There's a lot of labor involved in making glaze, especially making larger amounts. This one's pretty simple, but I still want to get as much as I can in there. Now I'm going to take this and push this glaze through the screen. If I can tell sometimes this first time through when it's really thick, if I can add more water or not. And this one probably needs a little extra. There are definitely more scientific ways to figure out how much water is needed for a glaze. There's things called hydrometers that you can use to find out the specific gravity of your glaze. But I don't use that. I go by feel. And I do a lot of tests. And I have done a lot of tests to get to that point where I can use just feel. So that mesh is pretty small, so it breaks those clumps down as I add pressure to push it through. And it really helps to mix the glaze together. First time through the screen is definitely the one that's going to take the longest. So now I'm going to scrape the bottom. So this process of making glazes, so it needs to go through the screen 3 times. Like I said, the first time is definitely the hardest one, and it gets a lot easier. I'm going to add just a little more water. So this screen is designed to fit in big 5-gallon buckets, but so I have to be careful not to push this off or you spill your glaze all over the table. So it is much faster. Now for the last time through, I want to really make sure I get everything out of this bucket. Stir it up, see how it feels. No more clumps. It needs to be a little thinner for what I'm going to use it for. So I'm going to add a little water now. That works pretty good. All right, that is it.